My name is Bill Fulton. I'm a visiting policy designer at the Design Lab at UC San Diego, and my job is to connect the Design Lab to all the policymakers here in San Diego on housing and other issues that the city and county government and people like that deal with. To a large extent, I serve as a liaison to all the elected officials and the government agencies and the philanthropies and others engaged in policy. So really what I'm doing is connecting, as I say, the Design Lab to all these situations so that the people in town know what the Design Lab is capable of, and also to help bring design thinking into the policy-making world. Policy is created in all kinds of weird ways, often very political. Design thinking is not often used, and so I'm hoping that we can bring design thinking into the policy arena, maybe for the first time here in San Diego. For example, issues of homelessness are often dealt with without talking to people who are unhoused. So design thinking, which is user-centric and human-centric, might cause you to engage much more deeply with unhoused people in understanding their daily lives and what they need and how to approach the whole question of diminishing homelessness. Of course, another trend in governance these days, particularly local governance, is to use data analytics and have metrics. So I think we can use data analytics and metrics to create a quantitative outcome that we hope for. So for example, it's been recently publicized that the number of unhoused people who die on the street has gone up. Well, maybe we should set a goal of having that go down a certain amount and then measure progress against that. Well, a couple of different things have prepared me for this. I used to be in politics myself. I was the mayor and a city council member in the city of Ventura up towards Santa Barbara, beach town up towards Santa Barbara. I did that for many years. I'm a trained urban planner, so I'm accustomed to interacting with communities and trying to figure out what they want and need in shaping policy. And then my previous experience here in San Diego was I was the director of planning and economic development, where I oversaw all the activities of the city in planning for the community's future, for the future of neighborhoods, and for economic growth. So I think all those things put together show that I come at this with a pretty good background in policy. I'm not, in my field, there are many people who are architectural or urban designers. I am not. I've always been a policy person, but I do think that one of the assets I've always brought to my work is to be very intentional about how one designs public policy to solve problems, and do that in a simple, elegant way rather than the usual messy political way of doing things. I've written several books. Many of them are about cities and urban planning and California. I wrote the standard textbook, Guide to California Planning, which is used by urban planning classes all over the state, including here at UCSD. I wrote a best-selling book about Los Angeles called The Reluctant Metropolis. I wrote a book while I lived in Texas and worked at Rice University for several years. I co-wrote a book about the Texas Triangle, the big driver of economic growth in Texas. And most recently, I wrote a book called Place and Prosperity, which is really about the relationship between my two passions, land use planning on the one hand and economic development on the other, and how those two things fit together, and how better places create more prosperity, and how more prosperity can help create better places. San Diego is an important place to me. It's been an important place in my personal history, and I think it is a region, San Diego Tijuana is a region that has unusual and tremendous assets. I think that it can be difficult to get things done in San Diego. I think if you bring design thinking to bear on some of the problems here in San Diego, you can make a lot of progress and maybe show the rest of the state and the rest of the country and the rest of the world how design thinking can be used to solve public policy problems. Also, the binational nature of the region is really interesting to me, and that's why I'm looking forward to taking some of these ideas and applying them in some of the projects that the Design Lab will be working on for the World Design Capital in 2024. You know, when Mayor Gloria took office, and I used to work for Mayor Gloria, when he took office, he said that San Diego is a big city and should take on big, difficult problems and solve them. and to stop punting those into the future. And I agree with that. And I think as a personal goal, whether it's housing or homelessness or transportation or these other issues that I'm very familiar with, climate, I think that my personal goal is to help move the ball forward so that these goals actually get accomplished, and we move forward to actually getting things done in a way that hasn't happened in a big way in the last few decades here in San Diego. Anybody who has a policy issue they want us to work on or they want me to think about, simply email me at bfulton@ucsd.edu. That's BFULTON at ucsd.edu. I also office at the Park and Market building downtown on the corner of Park and Market, the new UCSD building, and I'll be around at various events. But if there's an issue you want to call to my attention that you think the Design Lab should be working on, just email me.